Welcome everybody. It's Chris and we're back in the studio. We're creating beautiful flower painting here. This could be an occasional card. This could be just a fun composition you might want to frame. Maybe a gift for somebody. Maybe something you're going to put into a gallery showing or a competition, whatever it is, wherever you are in your art career. I'm hoping you're enjoying the process and having a good time. Learning new things every day, every week, every month, and year after year, you're progressing. And on my channel here, I'm just really happy that I can bring a lot of good information for you as watercolor artists so that you can have a lot of things to think about as you keep working in watercolor. So this here, we're going to do a gorgeous flower scene. It's going to be a couple roses, a rosebud and a pink rose. We're going to use a simple color scheme here. We're going to use essentially rose madder for our light colored pink rose. We're going to use alizarin crimson for this rosebud here with a touch of burnt sienna. And then for our background color and our greens and leaf forms, we're going to use sap green, olive green, and a little bit of raw umber. So we use a very, very limited amount of colors here. This is something you can really accomplish quickly, have a fun time of it. And one of the key items we're going to show here on this video is how you can get really beautiful, wonderful, light, fresh brush strokes by just kind of doing a quick little method of just practicing your brush stroke over the top of your paper first and then going down and doing the brush stroke itself with the paint. So we're going to cover all this on this video. You're going to have a great time learning lots of new things here on this video, and we'll get started, okay, in just a second. We'll be right back and we'll begin sketching and drawing our painting. All right, hey, welcome everyone. It's Chris Petri, and we're actually going to start a wonderful flower painting. It's going to be sort of a small composition. We're going to work on some Fabriano paper. This could be great for maybe warm-ups to doing some, maybe you're going to do a couple occasional cards, maybe some holiday cards, maybe some birthday cards. You can actually have a fun time doing small compositions and just doing them quick, doing them loose, having a good time, keeping things real fresh, and we'll see how it works out here. So we're just going to go with the flow. So I thought of maybe just some simple, maybe maybe a red rose bud and maybe like a pink rose together with some green stems, and just keep it real basic with a touch of background color. So let's try it out and see how it comes together here. So we have a, somewhat of a small rectangle here. I can take a quick measurement of this here. And this is a 4 by 5 1/4 inches. So I just taped off 4 inch by 5 1/4 inches with some artist tape. And that leaves me a nice rectangle here that we can work in. And again, we're going to try to just keep it loose, keep it fun. And we'll just get into the steps that we're going to do here. So the first thing we'll do is let's get the sketch in. And I'm just going to do this improv. So I don't have, you've seen the finished painting in the beginning of the video, so you can hit pause and maybe draw your sketch from there, your drawing from there, or you can work along with me here as you go. But the first thing I wanted to do is just basically get a super light pencil line of the basic composition of, filling up the rectangle with information with our flowers. So I'm going to do the pink rose over here. Like so, like that. And then some leaf forms. Like so. And I want to keep this very simple, so I'm not really going to do too much information in this rectangle. I'm going to try to just get a couple concepts here, a couple ideas in the rectangle. So the one pink rose over here. Like so, and then we're going to do a small red rose that has a stem coming across like so, and some green leaf forms. So I just want to get some of those in. So I'm penciling really light. I think you can see it okay. so I'm not going to worry too much, but we'll go over it with a darker pencil line too. Okay, so that's going to be our red rose there, bud. And then we have a leaf form there. And some more leaf forms there, green leaf forms there. And a couple and I think that's fine. A couple of diagonals going across the page like this with a red rose bud here and a pink rose over here. That's more, it's bloomed, so it's kind of larger and looks good too. It's with a little bit of green leaf forms underneath that, kind of a bit of a green, some greens underneath this pink rose. Okay, so now we have this kind of sketched out the way we want to have it look overall. And we did do this as a preliminary sketch, so we didn't do a really, really dark drawing. We just did a quick light sketch because we want to kind of get things situated on our canvas as we go in the beginning, very, very lightly. So just in case we have to erase a few things, we'll be okay. We can erase it, and it's going to lift up real easy, and then we can go over a few lines to make it look a little more pleasing. Or if you've maybe think you can make the rose look a little better, you might redraw your rose. If you think it might look a little better, it's up to you. So I'm going to take a break now since we did our preliminary sketch. Usually preliminary sketches do take a lot of concentration. You're trying to get everything just the way you want it inside your rectangle on your watercolor paper, so that's real important. And then the next thing I like to do here is take a break and then come back and do my darker pencil lines, just so I can get a really good pencil line down, most importantly for you, so you can see it on video, which is going to help a lot when you're drawing this. And then also, too, I like to see pencil lines in my paintings, so I'm going to really enjoy that myself. So I have some self-indulgence here with some darker pencil lines coming up next. And then after this, we'll start the painting, but we want to do a darker pencil line over this light preliminary sketch next. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come right back, and we'll do a darker pencil line, our contour drawing, as we say. The contour drawing is basically your darker pencil line over your very, very light preliminary sketch, and that's where you kind of really get in your main information that you want to prior to your painting. And your preliminary sketches is just your layout first, your light layout, just to make sure you have everything where you want it. And if it's not perfect or it's not just the way you want it, you can erase it. And it's real easy. It's really, really light, as far as pencil lines go. Once you do your darker pencil lines, those are a little harder to erase and lift up, so you don't want to really do dark pencil lines when you first start. You want to do lighter pencil lines unless you're absolutely sure you can get it looking good the first try when you go in to do your drawing. Then you're fine. You can do your darker pencil line if you feel that it's going to work out well and you won't have any issues with your design and your layout of your painting. Okay? All right, so let's come right back in just a second. We'll have a lot of fun here. We're going to do our contour drawing next. And then after that, we're going to do the painting, and that's going to be really fun. It's going to be quick and fast, and you'll see how just putting on some quick washes of paint are going to look so good, fresh, it'll look beautiful, perfect for like an occasional card, and it'll just, you'll be thrilled with the results you're going to get, because we're going to do everything in a certain format and process and method that I like to follow. And if you're just following along with me and kind of taking directions here as we go, you'll find that at the end, you're going to be really pleased with the outcome. Okay? All right, so I'll be right back. We'll get our contour drawing started. All right, so we just wanted to get back started again here, and we'll do our contour drawing. So I'll start out here by the stems at the bottom of this rectangle here. And I did avoid drawing the pencil line around the tape, just because I think when you lift up the tape on an occasional card or a small composition like this, I think that pencil line, I'm not sure if it's going to look so good. We could try it. Maybe the next time we'll do another video like this where we're doing a small composition. Maybe we'll try the pencil line around the tape here. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it just the tape. And hopefully you can kind of see the tape border around here pretty well. And let's start out. So I'm just going to start out with the, we're doing a contour drawing. So I'm going to start out in one place, the stem here, and then I'm going to do my, green leaf forms. Then I'm going to do my rose shape here. And there's another bit of petals over here. And I'm going to leave this really loose. I'm not going to do too many details here. So, and then I'm going to go skip right over here to the other rosebud, which is more of a darker, more burgundy red kind of, or rose madder red. And there's a small green leaf form there, another leaf form here, and another leaf form here. So I'm doing some leaf forms and some stems here. And then the stems you don't have to really worry about too much. You can leave those until you use your brush for your stems. So I always say, you know, when you're doing very, very small stems on your, let's say your twigs and your branches, you can leave those very, very light. You can even go and kind of go back and erase them a little bit, the stems and some of the very, very fine stems and things like that, because we're going to go back and do those probably with a needlepoint brush. So when you use a needlepoint brush, you'll be able to get a really beautiful, sharp, thin line for your twigs on your stems here, for your rose stems. So if you're using a really beautiful needlepoint brush like this, you can get those details in with this, and you don't really have to pencil them in. You might pencil them in at first and then like take a kneaded eraser and just lift up the, that's what I like to do anyway. I like to lift up the pencil lines that I put down for the small twigs and things on the stems. Just leaving a little bit so I kind of know where approximately I'm going to paint them in with my needlepoint brush, but I don't need to leave them dark pencil lines when I'm doing my contour drawing. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to lift up a little bit of some of the details on your drawing. But we did get our contour drawing in there, so you can kind of see we did that. And now the real fun happens when we're going to have a great time just putting in some beautiful color. And sometimes that's all you need is just some gorgeous color on your paper with some simple shapes like these flower shapes and leaf forms, and you'll have a gorgeous, beautiful painting for your occasional card, or maybe it's just going to be a composition you're going to do to frame and so forth for a collection of paintings or whatever. And look at this. We have crystal clear water. You need crystal clear water when you're doing a painting like this. When you start out, I always start out with fresh, clean water, and I change my water constantly when I'm painting, especially when you want to get real beautiful, pure looking color. We want to avoid having murky, muddy water when we're working, so that's real important. So try to change your water frequently, unless you're working with really, really dark colors and a dark, let's say, low-key painting. But if you're looking for a higher key painting where you're using light colors and lots of white paper and light tonal values, then you're going to definitely want to have fresh, clean water constantly and keep that water really fresh and clean. And some artists use 2 water containers at the same time, so they might fill up one water container and another, and then when they have paint on their brush, they go in and rinse it off first in the muddy water, then they go into the clear water. So that's another little tidbit of information you might think about if you want to keep your water really clean and your brush clean. And you can also incorporate a secondary water container into your process when you're painting, so that you can kind of rinse off your brush first quick, get the majority of the paint, used paint and muddy paint that you might have been just mixing a mix here, or you might just have finished a certain portion of your painting and you want to rinse your brush off. You can always go into a first container with water, get the bulk of the paint off, and then you go back in and go into your second clean water. And that'll tend to help you keep your water clean and pure looking as you're painting in the painting process. Or you just, like on myself, I just change my water a lot. So you have two methods you can really use for keeping your water fresh and clean and crystal clear. Or, keeping it clear anyway, or keeping it somewhat, clean, your water pail and your water bucket, water container. You can use two containers. So one is the first one you hit your brush with first to get off the majority of the paint. And then the second one, you rinse off a little bit more, and then you're ready to go back in and get your paint and start mixing more mixes in your palette. So that's kind of like the idea of a secondary water container. I know, again, some watercolor artists swear by that, and it is a good method to use. Again, I just tend to change my water bucket a lot. So I empty my water pail out or my water container out all the time, a lot, 3 or 4 times a painting at least. So that's something to keep in mind, just to help you to keep your colors looking fresh and beautiful. So let's get started and get our colors going here. The first thing I'll do is I'll get my lightest light colors. We're going to use rose madder. Look how beautiful that is. Straight rose madder. Just like that. And we're just going to go in and start here and just get that on. Then what I do is I rinse off my brush in that clean water. I take off a little bit of water off my brush on tissue or on a paper towel or my apron. I usually wear an apron when I'm painting. And then we just smooth that out and make it a little lighter here. So you can kind of see how I'm lightening up the wash. Like that. So it's a little bit, we have a little more color, a little more rose madder here on the bottom portion here. And we leave it a little bit lighter up here on top. Like that. And you can even add a little more in there, as you see I'm doing. Then we can go right in and we'll get some greens. Sap green, olive green, raw umber for a little bit of that golden color. And let's get a couple leaf forms going here. And I'll blend them right in like that. And I'm doing this quick, right? I'm not taking too much time. I sometimes do a quick little flick of the brush there, like that, just to get a couple in there quick. Sometimes it looks really good if you just do a quick, brush stroke, like that. I get a little bit of burnt sienna. Over here, burnt sienna, burnt umber, touch of French ultramarine blue. And then maybe over here, I just do a little dark there. Like so. And again, I'm keeping this real light and fresh. And not too much brush strokes. I'm trying to keep these kind of fresh. And then we'll come right over here and we'll get this next rosebud here. Let's use alizarin crimson. So we're going to use a darker red. Or a has more of a stronger chroma to it. So the rose madder is lighter in tonal value. It's got a more of a light pink color to it. When you take some of your rose madder out of your palette and you put it in the palette with some water, a little bit of water, you'll see it's very light pink like this here. We see this. Then when I go in and get my alizarin crimson, you can kind of see right away how much it's darker in tonal value. So already you're getting a darker, more rich looking, exciting not, let's say not more exciting, but more rich and darker tonal value for your red there. And you can even add in a little bit of burnt sienna to darken that up just a little more, burnt sienna. And even, let's say, a touch of French ultramarine blue. And then we can do that. And then let's see how that looks. Perfect. Wow. So we're going to do that rosebud here. And then I get the darker tonal value in like so. Then I rinse my brush off. Then once I rinse my brush off in my clean water, I take off a little bit of water on the tissue. And then what I want to do is just lighten up a little bit on the top area of this rosebud up here, like so. Like that. And you can even go back in and get some more rose madder. And I think that looks really good. And then we can go back in and we'll start working in our greens. And again, our greens were sap green, olive green, and a touch of raw umber. And then we can just do our flicks of our brush. Again, keeping it real fast and loose. You're just going to want to look at the shape of the leaf form that you want to create, and then you have your pencil line already on the paper, so you've already drawn in your pencil line, so you already see how you got to pretty much go with your brush stroke. Then you get your paint, if this makes sense. Now what I like to do is I get my paint and I rest my hand on the table. I'm working on a table here, a masonite board with my watercolor paper taped down, and I look at the pencil line and say, okay, that's the pencil line, and it's going in a slight radius, like a little bit of like a curve. And I have my green paint on my brush, so I have the paint on my brush, and I just want to do it in like, let me try it in one brush stroke. So it's going to be a quick kind of feel, and you just want to try to get it in the one brush stroke. So just imagine you want to kind of try a little above the top of the paper. You try a little bit of like a practice swings, like you've ever seen like people like baseball players, they take practice swings with their bat, or maybe tennis players, they take practice swings with their racket or the baseball bat, or cricket, right? Cricket, they do some practice runs. We're doing the same thing here. We're taking some practice runs over the top of the paper, and then when you feel like, okay, now I got a couple practice runs in there, then I'm ready. I'm just going to do one touch down and swing across the paper with the brush stroke. So I do a couple practice runs there, and look how good that looks. Perfect. Look how good and loose that looks. That's the kind of thing we can do as artists to really get our brush strokes looking fresh and free looking and not too stressed out, because sometimes stress gets translated in your artwork. When you're painting, if you're doing very, very tight brush strokes, very, very slow, and you're doing that a lot, that will translate in your painting's going to look a little more tight and a little more stressed. Like people will actually see the mood and the feel of how you were painting it by looking at the brush strokes actually. So it kind of like your brush strokes, if you will, are kind of like indications of how you did your painting. So it's not wrong to do your painting very carefully. Some artists like to work real careful and very slow, and you can do that too and figure out a way to, the idea is I would just say, if you want your painting to look a little fresher and freer looking, you'd want to do the same thing with your brush and try to do those practice runs over the top. And then when you feel like you can get that brush stroke in, then you just do it like that. Wham! Look how good that looks. Bam! We did it. Then we do another one like that. And then over here too, the same thing. I'll get a little bit of water in my brush, and I'll put a little bit of water. We'll make this a lighter wash, so it's going to be a little bit of a lighter brush stroke, but we'll do the same thing. We'll just do that. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Look how good that looks. And then we could take our time a little more and do the stem, like so, right? Then come over here and we'll do the same thing. Maybe we'll get a little more raw umber on this one. So we'll make this one a little more of a golden yellow. Let's do that. Let's mix some raw umber in there into that wash. And let's do another one. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Then we add the stem over to this other main stem here. And then we pick up maybe some burnt umber. We'll do some darker stems over here. But can you see how much fun we're having? Isn't this great? See? And that's all it is just you do those little bit of practice runs first. You can do a couple more like this to fill in some things. If you want to kind of paint in the areas that you drew in your pencil lines, you can fill those in. But if you get that flick of the brush and that quick motion, you're going to wind up with really, really nice brush strokes and a really, really loose feel to your painting. And then we can go in and do a couple splashes like that. Take some green. We'll do some green splashes over here. And we'll do a little bit of green like this. And we'll do some background right away. We can go right in and do some background here. And that looks fine. So we're doing some background. And what else do we have? If you find some of your splashes are too if you find your splashes are too strong or they look a little too overpowering, you can lift them up with a tissue. You can wet the paper a little bit and do a little scrubbing, get them a little bit lighter, and then you can go over with some of this green and now you see I'm doing my background here, my background colors to get some color on the paper and wash on the paper. And you can just carefully get that wash on the paper. You can leave it white paper and not put too much background wash if you don't want to. I'm thinking I like to see some of that background wash. So I like to get that in there and do some splashing as well. That's going to give it more texture, which makes it more interesting if you can get some more texture in there. And then you can also take some of that and mix that into your flower a little bit, that greenish gold mix. And then you can blot it up a little bit. But that also looks good if you can get some of that green and gold mixture, which is the raw umber and the olive green and some of the sap green. If you can do that too, that looks really good. That way it harmonizes the whole painting together. So it's almost like you're tying the whole painting together with the same colors all the way through. So if I'm putting a little bit of that green, olive green, and raw umber on my rose madder rose here, which is a pink rose, and then you lift up a little bit if you have to, just to kind of make it a little less noticeable. But if you can get that color mix going all the way through the whole painting, it's going to look really, really good. And you notice I'm leaving some little white sparkles of paper. Not too many though. But I think those little bit of white sparkles in the composition look good. And then you can put little bits of strong color here and there. You can do a little bit of so you see how I add a little bit of darker, stronger color there and a little bit up here. Again, it adds a little bit of interest and exciting tonal values to your painting. you can even add a little more of that red if you want to into the background color. And that will also harmonize everything really nicely. If you can do that too, that's really going to kind of make everything really harmonize together beautifully. And I think you're going to be really happy with this painting and this composition that you do. Just following along as we went here. What I'll do is we'll let this dry right now. And then once it dries really, 90% dry, almost 100% dry, probably better off just let it dry 100%. You can blow dry it at this point, or you can let it dry naturally for a couple hours until it's completely dry. Then we'll go back in, we'll use our needlepoint brush, and we'll get a couple of those fine stems on the and little small branches and things on some of the the stems of these flowers, just to give it a little extra more detail to this composition, to this painting. And you'll even find that when you do that, a couple little quick small twigs or shapes of some stems, it's just going to take it to the next level. So let's do that. Let's take a break, let this dry, or if you want to use your blow dryer, you'll be all the faster and quicker to get started up again and get those small twigs and things in these stems on our flowers. So I leave it up to you how you want to do that. But I think we can actually let this dry, and you will notice that when we do that, it will look really good. Okay, so we'll come right back in a few minutes and we'll do some fine stems and fine twigs on our stem forms. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and we're going to do our final bit of details on this wonderful painting here. It's a small composition. It could be an occasional card. It could be a small painting you might want to do. You know, if you create a painting of this size, which is approximately like a 4x6, you put a larger mat around this, and next thing you know, you have a really good size painting, like an 8x12 painting or so. So sometimes you can really use a nice wide mat around this, a nice large border, maybe like a nice cream color mat or a white color mat, and then a beautiful, maybe like a metallic frame. Metallic frames look really nice with watercolors, I feel. So I usually use, for myself, when I frame my paintings, I like to use metal, like a stainless steel. I like to use like silver colors, copper colors, gold color frames. Anything metallic looks really good. And of course, black always looks fantastic, like your gallery frames, which are usually just like a 2-inch or just basically a black frame, solid black frame, very simple, like gallery frames usually are. So I'm going to start out here and use my needlepoint brush, and I think that's all we're going to use at this point. What I'd like to do is basically, I like to get a darker dark here for my twigs and stems. So I'm going to start out with the same colors we used, sap green, raw umber, and I think once we use the green and the raw umber, then we're like halfway there. Then maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, and then a little bit of blue, French ultramarine blue. If I mix all those three together, that gives me quite a nice dark tonal value and color range for the mixture. And I think a little more green I think might look good in there. And then once I load up my brush, I always like to have a tissue so I can dry off a little bit of the color on my brush on the tissue so that I don't go too much paint, which could lead to a problem. And then these are the same kind of things you want to do. We're just talking about this, very in the beginning of the video, or like when we started painting in this video, we talked about how you can kind of do that practice kind of feel where you kind of 1, 2, and then boom, bam, 3. You go in and you hit that really nice brush stroke. So we're going to try to do the same thing here. And I'll just do a couple of those. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Good. Looks good. Then maybe I can just hold my hand and rest it on the paper. Paper's 100% dry now. Remember, we used the blow dryer, or you can let this dry naturally, but I use the blow dryer and I rest my hand on the paper. And then I can just do the same thing here. A couple little quick, like that. And I think a little more brown might look good in there. Kind of an earth tone with a little bit of red even too, alizarin crimson there. You can't go wrong with using the same colors you used in the painting. So I always find that when I go in and I'm doing subsequent washes in my paintings, toward the end of the painting, if I'm doing some details and things like that, I tend to kind of use the same colors I've used throughout the painting already. You can't go wrong doing that. The only problem you might have, you might find that if you start using paints or colors, actually the actual colors, if you use colors other than what you've used already in your painting, and you start introducing that into your painting, that can look a little bit unpleasant looking, because it kind of doesn't like have that blending effect of harmonizing with your painting. So that's always a good thing to keep in mind when you're doing watercolors, is you try to keep your colors the same. And when you kind of have your main colors in your painting situated, and you're already, like, let's say 90% done with your painting, then you're set. You kind of just know you're not going to use anything off that game plan. You're going to just go back in and use the same colors that you used when you originally started. So I'm going to do a few more stems here, a couple more here, maybe. Like that. That to me looks pretty good. Then I add a little more water here. And then I think I'm going to do a little splashing. So I just pick up the paint with a little bit of water, not too much water, and just a few splashes. And that to me gives it a little bit of a sparkle. It looks good. A little bit of more texture to the painting. And I think that looks fine. So now that we're at this point, well, let's peel off the tape and we'll kind of see what it looks like with the white border around it. Remember we taped off this painting with some artist tape, and you'll be surprised if you can. I like to mention this, everyone, and I hope you'll do this when you're at home and you're painting all the time. Most times, try to tape your paintings, whether you're just doing some simple compositions for fun, or you're doing your paintings for, if you're starting to build up a little bit of a stockpile of paintings and you might want to start selling them and putting them online for sale, or selling them to friends at work or some of your relatives, or when you're starting to get a little better at watercolor, or you might even be painting now a number of years and you're doing really well, but you've never thought of selling some of your artwork. Try to get some of your artwork out there. Try to sell some of it. Kind of, bring it places and show people and say, oh, I'm looking to sell some paintings. I have a whole bunch at home, and I want to move some of these out of the studio and make room for new ones. And next thing you know, you'll have people excited and say, oh yeah, that looks really nice. I could use that. I could really see that in my living room or my dining room or my kitchen. So people really will be very open to your artwork and want to purchase your artwork if you just let them know about it. Sometimes I know everyone's out there. We're all different, but I'm kind of the same way too. I don't always promote myself that much. On YouTube I do. Of course, you know me here on YouTube. I'm always singing my own praises, but sometimes, out in the real world, I don't always necessarily promote my own work as much as I should probably. But in any case, that looks really great. So yeah, once you lift off the tape, you kind of see it. That's how it would look framed. And then you can just envision a frame around it, maybe like a black frame or a gold frame, a nice gold metallic frame, maybe ornate, like a really ornate gold frame with lots of, carvings and things like that. There's all kinds of cool frames out there that you can look online. You can go to your local big box stores like Michael's and AC Moore's, and Blix has really good frames. If you go out to big box stores, like big art stores and things like that around your area. And of course online, there's just a whole great bunch of online stores that you can purchase frames. And mats too, by the way. You can get custom-made mats, so you can order your mats exactly to size. So if you paint, and maybe you're like me, a lot of times maybe you don't put down an exact size dimension when you're painting, you can always get custom-made mats, and they'll make them exactly the size. So if you just get excited and you create a painting and you forget to measure it out first, you can just measure it in your studio and say, oh, this is 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. And you write that down and you say, okay, let me write that down. 3 3/4. You can even turn your paper over and say 3 3/4 inches by, and we could look at this here and say this is 5 inches by 5 inches. And that's your window size. So that would be the window you need for your mat. And then you find a frame you want to put it in. And if the frame is maybe 8 by 10, then you just say, I need an 8 by 10 mat with a window the size of this. And you type in 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. And they'll custom cut your mat for you so that when it arrives at your house, at your home, at your place, it'll have a perfectly cut window that fits right over the top of this so that there's no white showing and you just see the painting. And you have a beautiful white mat around this, or a cream color mat. You could use tan, cream, off-white, white. Those tend to look the best, your lighter color mats for your paintings. And you just tell them you need the window opening 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And that's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. I've ordered many mats like that when I was creating paintings over the years now. When I've had custom paintings that I needed to get framed, I would buy the frame myself, and I still do that. I frame my own paintings. But usually I order the mats online, and I just order the window size that I need, so I don't really worry too much when I'm painting, because I just order the custom window size of the mat. Because like I looked at it, this one here, this is one you buy in the store, but if I put this one over this here like that, can you see how the mat that I bought in the store here, it doesn't fit correctly because I didn't paint the painting large enough? But you can always go online, like I said, and purchase a custom ordered mat with the exact window size you need, which is a little smaller than this one. This one is a little bit too large. So you can either start out by tracing this on your paper first and then making it a little larger than this opening, or you could do it the more difficult way, which usually is how I do it, and I order the mat custom ordered online. But whatever way you have to do it to get the job done, that's totally up to you. But I'm glad we had fun here. Let's continue on. Let's come back, and again, in the next couple of days, we're going to do something else new and exciting with our watercolor painting. But this, again, is a really fun painting to do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks so much. And I always mention, too, if you like to subscribe, this way you don't lose track of me, you just click on the subscribe button below on the right-hand side, and all that does is just, YouTube will just let you know when I make a new video. They'll send you in your YouTube channel. You'll see my video on your channel when you open up YouTube the next time. So there's no emails or text messages or phone calls or any silly stuff like that. YouTube just really lets you know I've made a new video. So when you open up YouTube the next time, you'll see my videos. So that's all subscribe really is. And it also helps me a lot. If you subscribe, as an artist, it helps me. This way more people feel confident about my work and joining along with me and painting with me, because they say, hey, wow, if 50,000 people are following me, then that must mean I'm doing something right, and then they'll want to follow along and paint. So let's all paint together, have a good time, and let people know, too, by hitting subscribe. This way, new people that are coming in, they're going to feel okay about it and feel like they can trust painting along with us here. So, okay, let's have fun. See you on the next video. Again, happy painting, everybody. Enjoy the process, and we'll get started in just another couple days or so.